Now I'd like to introduce the candidates participating tonight. For seat 1, we have Joan Farrell and Mitzi Fiedler. And for seat 2, we have Dusty Feller and Ronald Smith. And now I'd like to also introduce our co-sponsor for tonight, the Venice Gondolier, and we have Ron DuPont Jr., who's joined us tonight, who is the editor of the Venice Gondolier for most of the past 11 years, during which the Gondolier has been named the best community newspaper in the state by Florida Press Association during the years he's led it. He's been writing for newspapers since middle school, and journalism is the only career he's ever known. He's the father of an 18-year-old son who attends State College of Florida and wants to be an aerospace engineer in honor of the family's great-great-great uncles, the Wright brothers. Here behind me is Bob Mudge, who is the senior writer for the Venice Gondolier. His principal beat is Venice City government, but he also covers healthcare, business, and a variety of other topics, as well as writing opinion pieces. He's the recipient of more than 100 awards for writing for the from the Florida Press Association, the Florida Press Club, and the National Newspaper Association. Prior to joining the paper in 2020, he was a practicing attorney in Southwest Florida. And Bob is going to take over with the questions now.
I know the applause was for Villia because the media doesn't get applause. She's laid down the ground rules. I would like to add one, even though I think it's obvious. No wagering.
No drinking.
Oh no, drinking's not even optional, it's mandatory. And I'd like to welcome 2 distinguished guests whom the candidates are interviewing for jobs with. We have City Manager Ed LaValle and Assistant City Manager James Clinch with us here tonight. Okay, first question, 2 minutes. We're going to start with you, Joan. And the question is, in the recent Sarasota County Citizen Opinion Survey, population growth and new development was once again the top issue. How do you plan to address the impact of growth with respect to infrastructure, community services, and incorporation of citizens' input? Again, 2 minutes.
Citizens' input is a critical area. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I would love to go out into the neighborhoods and meet the citizens. This has been suggested to council. It would be a great idea. Infrastructure is a challenge when we have so much development coming. There are studies that show that unless there are significant impact fees charged to the developers, that the costs are not recouped and they fall on the already existing structures. Did I cover everything on the question? It was the citizen input and
Infrastructure, community services.
Oh, and community services, fire and EMT as well. So yes, it's very expensive, and the best way to recoup it is through impact fees, and we really need to address that very seriously. Thank you.
Mitzi, 2 minutes.
Okay, question?
In the recent Sarasota County Citizen Opinion Survey, population growth and new development was once again the top issue. How do you plan to address the impact of growth with respect to infrastructure, community services, and incorporation of citizens' input?
This year, we voted on having a master transportation plan, and we're going to initiate that next year. It's a $300,000 study that we're going to do. We're going to look into depth into our 7 neighborhoods that we have divided our city into. In those neighborhoods, we have what we consider complete streets that have sidewalks, bike lanes, and roads. We're dealing with the infrastructure that way to make sure that in the neighborhoods the traffic is safe. The infrastructure, according to sewers and waters, we've already addressed. We right now produce twice as much water as we need, so that we have that covered. We produce 4.4 million gallons a day. We only use 2.2, so we're well covered with that. Our impact fees, we adjust regularly according to what the county and the state mandate. So we are looking at growth in the city through transportation. Citizen input will be included in our master plan. We plan on talking to all of the neighborhoods to find out what their needs are. So we're incorporating task force, we're addressing infrastructure, and we're facilitating the community needs.
Okay, Dusty, your turn. You want to hear the question again?
Sure.
Okay. In the recent Sarasota County Citizen Opinion Survey, population growth and new development was, once again, the top issue. How do you plan to address the impact of growth with respect to infrastructure, community services, and incorporation of citizens' input? 2 minutes.
Well, I think that the current city council has done a great job in revising their comprehensive plan and their LDRs. A developer can now only develop 50% of their land in a PUD. The rest of the land has to be for open spaces, wildlife corridors, for 99 years. I think that's a great start. They also lowered the building height down to 35 feet, unless you need a council approval. You know, you can go up higher than that, but you have to have four out of 7. So I think the current council is very aware of where we are growth-wise, and I commend them for putting those things in place. As far as our infrastructure goes and our roads and our traffic, most of our roads are county-owned roads. You can't, there's a lot of things that the city would like to do, but they can't do because of the county's part in that. So what I've done in my campaign is I've made sure to have the endorsement of every single county commissioner. So I have that handshake relationship and I have that phone call relationship with them to talk about. You know, it's great, you're doing all this building north of Monterey, but where are these people going to travel? They're going to travel right down Pinebird Road. That's my neighborhood. That's going to affect our infrastructure and our traffic. So without the relationships with the county, there's not going to be a whole lot that the city can actually do. So that's what I focus my efforts on there is the relationships with the county and continuing the city council's current LDR and comprehensive plan revisions.
Yeah, Ron, I'll give you the question as well since everybody else got it. In the recent Sarasota County Citizen Opinion Survey, population growth and new development was once again the top issue. How do you plan to address the impact of growth with respect to infrastructure, community services, and incorporation of citizens' input? 2 minutes.
I do believe that people are tired of the unbridled growth that we do have in our community. And I think we've seen that, seen them rise up in opposition to some elements of the land development regulations. We've seen them rise up against commercial encroachment in residential neighborhoods. We've seen them rise up against developers trying to take back open space. I want to be on the city council because I love this paradise that we live in. I love John Nolan's plan and vision for our city and the city that's resulted from his vision. I want to protect that vision, that low-density city that we have. And I will seek to be on the city council because that's where you can have that effect. The city council has final authority over the comprehensive plan, over zoning regulations, and over special exceptions. I believe that changes to the comprehensive plan and to our zoning regulations should be rare. Never for the benefit of a single developer, only when it's for the benefit of the city, with a vision for how that affects an entire area of the city. I believe that I don't want to be stuck in traffic in and around high-rise buildings. I don't want Venice to become what we see now in downtown Sarasota. I do want to involve the neighborhoods in our community in city council business. I've challenged the city council to go out into the neighborhoods, meet twice a month, hold one of their meetings every month in a neighborhood. And those neighborhoods are identified in the comprehensive plan. We should be out in every one of them every year. I've been told that would be difficult because of all of the videotaping that's done, all the city staff that is needed at those meetings. And if that's true, then the council itself should go out for listening tours in every one of those neighborhoods every year. The community needs to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 1, done. 46 to go. What? Okay, Okay, we'll start this one with Mitzi. 1 minute to answer the rest of these. Should the city negotiate a new interlocal park management agreement with the county? And if so, who should assume responsibility for Wellfield Park and other parks in the city that the county maintains?
We've been in talks with Sarasota County about the interlocal agreement. It expires in 2026, so we've got plenty of time to address that issue. Wellfield Park is something that we've been in discussion with, and who the ownership of that will be according to what the plan comes out as to what Wellfield will look like. Will Wellfield become a regional park, or will Wellfield remain a community park as we have now? If it goes to a regional park, of course, it makes more sense for it to belong to Sarasota County, because they will be able to facilitate a regional park, and they will be able to expand it so that it has everything that all their regional parks do. If it remains a city park, then we need the input from the citizens as to what they want their park to look like and how they want their park to function. As we discuss with, is that what it is? Oh, okay. And discussions are ongoing, and there's nothing that needs to be really done for a couple of years.
Dusty, I'll go ahead and read the question again. I plan to do that with all of them. Should the city negotiate a new interlocal park management agreement with the county, and if so, who should assume responsibility for Wellfield Park and the other parks in the city that the county maintains?
I think that the city and the county are going to be in constant negotiations with our parks. Again, you know, a lot of our roads are county-owned, a lot of our parks are county-owned, city-maintained, vice versa. Wellfield Park is a hot-button issue that's in my neighborhood. I know there's been talk of putting a hurricane evacuation center there. I do know that the neighborhoods around there are concerned about traffic. They're concerned about the widening of Pine Grove Road. I think it would take a lot of community input as to what they want. And also Joe Nunders is my neighbor, and he's trying to spearhead, you know, also what could happen with Wellfield Park. My daughter did cheer there, and I had to go upstairs of that building to sign her up, and I was scared to death we were going to fall right through the floor. Am I done? Okay. I forgot what the orange
Yeah, the orange part's 10 seconds and the red one is...
okay, sorry. So yes, I think, yeah. Hopefully you got that.
Hey, Ron, 1 minute. Should the city negotiate a new interlocal park management agreement with the county, and if so, who should assume responsibility for Wellfield Park and the other parks in the city that the county maintains?
The answer is yes. The city should review that and sign a new interlocal agreement. With Wellfield Park, it's already a regional park. It's being used not just by city residents, but largely by county residents that come to use those facilities. That just demands that it be labeled what it is, which is a regional park, and that it be paid for, be maintained by the county. Anything else is a form of double taxation. City taxpayers are paying for it, county taxpayers are using it and not paying for it. So we pay county taxes too. That should cover our contribution to the management of that park, and the city residents should not be supplying it for the use of all county residents. I think that the agreement we do have is a good one. I think that it has saved the city money, and we need to continue with a similar type arrangement.
Joan, your turn, 1 minute. Should the city negotiate a new interlocal park management agreement with the county? And if so, who should assume responsibility for Wellfield Park and other parks in the city that the county maintains?
I need to research this one. As a newbie, I certainly will. I'll get in there and do all the research that is needed for this decision. But I also would ask the citizens what is their thought on the matter, and perhaps even a study on how many citizens are actually Venice citizens versus county citizens. I know our map of Venice is very weird. It looks like a dragon, okay, so it's downtown, the island, and then it's North Venice. So this Pine Brook area is part of Venice, but areas very close to that. Venice Gardens is not part of it. It's a very confusing situation as to what is actually Venice. So I would get a lot of input from the citizens, and I would do my homework. Thank you.
Okay, Dusty, your turn to lead off, 1 minute. please share 3 specific actions you would take to encourage the development of affordable and low-income housing in the city. 1 minute.
Affordable housing is a hot topic issue, and it cannot be solved just by the city of Venice. It is something that we're going to have to work with the county, we're going to have to work with the school board, we're going to have to work with the private sector to come up with solutions. I met with the Manatee Planning Commission, the Sarasota Planning Commission, and they've already gotten things in place that they're working on. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel on this. We just need to work with our neighboring partners and figure out how we can do it, what the best way to do it. And we have to change the mindset of the community. We're not asking for housing for a felon or, something like that. What we're asking for is our first responders, our teachers, and the people who put their heart and soul into this community, but they can't afford to live here. So.
Hey, Ron, 1 minute. Please share 3 specific actions you would take to encourage the development of affordable and low-income housing in the city.
This is something the state legislature has given us a great gift that we can work with. It's the Live Local Act, where they're giving financial incentives to developers if they will include in what they develop affordable housing. The city needs to support that. The city has done one good thing in this area recently by branding a 750 square foot unit, a half of a unit when you count how many units you can have per acre. That's a help, but families don't live in 750 square feet, so that's not going to be the total solution. We've got to work with the developers, let them take that state incentive, and then we need to find the right density that encourages it but doesn't overwhelm us. In Sarasota, they've given 4 times the density, asking for 4 times the density in order to build affordable housing. That's too much. More like 2. Thank you.
Okay, looping back around to you, Joan. Please share 3 specific actions you would take to encourage the development of affordable and low-income housing in the city.
Okay, one of the answers was provided by one of the folks that attended the forum last night, and she said that one thing that upsets her, and I think it upsets everyone, is to see empty storefronts, empty buildings. I think we need to think outside the box. Habitat for Humanity in England and in Poland, of all places, are repurposing all sorts of buildings that are almost being considered throwaway buildings, but they need to be, of course, inspected and looked at and evaluated. And if they have good bones and everything else pretty well structurally sound, they can be replumbed, all kinds of siding and all kinds of new appliances, etc., put in there. We need to think outside the box. I think we might have been too limited in our thinking on this. Thank you.
Mitzi, you need the question again?
I think 3 things.
3 things.
3 things.
For affordable and low-income housing.
Okay, got it. Our LDRs, we've added new things in our LDRs. Again, the 750 units, 750 square feet is considered a half unit. We are allowing accessory dwellings on each lot. We have incentives for builders with bonus densities. We are looking at exclusionary zoning, and in the past we've partnershiped with Family Promise. We've actually given them some money for their structures inside the city.
Ron, your turn to start. 1 minute. The Florida State Legislature issued a high volume of legislation with local impact in its last session. The next session starts in January. What are your thoughts on how home rule preemption affects the ability to legislate locally?
I favor home rule, if that's what we're asking. Of course, state law trumps local law, and I can't implement an ordinance that's in contradiction with state law.
Joan, 1 minute to you. The Florida State Legislature issued a high volume of legislation with local impact in its last session. The next session starts in January. What are your thoughts on how home rule preemption affects the ability to legislate locally?
I'm definitely a home rule fan, and I think that Tallahassee has been trying to bind the hands of the municipalities in a host of ways. One of them is impact fees, how much they can be charged They are so pro-developer. I'm not anti-developer, but I think that both here locally in Sarasota County and statewide, we are in a development boom or bust, and mostly it's a boom. So I am not for that. Red tide. The state just passed a law that countermands a Venice ordinance that would help red tide. No fertilizer during the rainy season. The state countermanded that and said, yes, go ahead with it for the next 2 years at a cost of $250,000 to the taxpayers. This is already known that nutrients cause red tide. Thank you.
Mitzi, you want a question?
No, I think it's home rule and how it impacts on a local. Home rule is tough. We as City Council have tried to do a number of different initiatives over the last 6 years, and we've been pulled back on them because we weren't able to do that. Simple things like smoking on the beach, which we wanted to ban, but we couldn't until finally the state allows now you can smoke on the beach, but you cannot smoke on the beach except a cigar. But, you know, simple, yeah, I know, go figure. So there are things that we would like to do as a city. We have to be very careful that we don't step outside of our boundaries. It becomes very difficult, very frustrating for the citizens, because it means that we can't really represent you the way we would like to do. So, thank you. Very good.
Dusty, your turn?
Yes. I absolutely agree with home rule. I don't think that it's smart to have someone who doesn't live here be able to tell us what we can and cannot do in our city. That's what you elect your city council people for. And you know, you put things in place like policy 8.2, the compatibility. You put these things in the hands of your city council who know what's best for your city, who's living here daily and know what affects your city. So having someone in Tallahassee or wherever tell you what you can and cannot do in your city, to me, it's just not right. They don't live here. Why does their opinion trump the ones of us who do live here?
And we're back to Joan for the next question. 1 minute. What steps, if any, would you take to protect the city's natural resources, wetlands, rural areas, and open space for conservation purposes?
Whoa, that's one of my big ones. We need to stop the rampant overdevelopment. I'm not anti-development, but what we have now is a situation in which the pipeline is now full, chock full of things that even if stopped, there's going to be a great residual effect. I believe that the animals and plants are at great risk, and I believe we have let down our youth. And if you look at the City Council and the Planning Commission, it's a bunch of old people, including myself. So we need to think for the future, and it's an existential threat. And I don't think that the voters have woken up quite yet. I think they are in process thereof, now that they've become really alarmed at the clear cutting and the traffic congestion. Thank you.
Mitzi?
Yeah, the question.
Sure. What steps, if any, would you take to protect the city's natural resources, wetlands, rural areas, and open space for conservation purposes?
We have included in our LDRs an environmental section where we address the oceans, we address wildlife corridors, we address wetlands, we address mining, and we address protection of those areas. We are protecting the turtles, we are protecting them with lights. We are now in, when a developer develops land, a group goes out and makes sure that the environmental species that are there are protected and identified. So our LDRs now have a new environmental chapter to it that addresses a lot of these concerns. And I'm hoping that we get to keep that with home rule and not have that trumped by anybody at the state level.
Dusty, what steps, if any, would you take to protect the city's natural resources, wetlands, rural areas, and open space for conservation purposes?
First of all, I'm a huge animal lover. I started a 501c3 nonprofit in Alabama. My neighbor's in the room. She sees me rush out every morning to rescue frogs out of my pool. I love all living things. It breaks my heart to see our wetlands bulldozed over and the cows are disappearing, things like that. I would absolutely be an advocate for that. I know that the city is limited on what you can do as far as property rights. If you own the property, there's, the person who owns it has the rights to do that. But I do know that when I'm elected to city council, I will do what I can to protect the wildlife and our green spaces.
And Ron, what steps, if any, would you take to protect the city's natural resources, wetlands, rural areas, and open space for conservation purposes?
This is crucial to the future of Venice. We have had wise decisions made in the past, generous gifts from people like the Caspersons of giving us that great stretch of beach. And it's our job to preserve it. It's our job to address these ecological issues. The late Governor Ruben Askew said that ecological destruction in Florida is tantamount to economic suicide. And in Venice, that is the case. It's important to our downtown businesses. It's important to the tourism industry, to the hotel and motel industry here, that we take care of our beaches. Everybody's in favor of healthy beaches and healthy fisheries. We have work to do in Venice in order to protect those things. And we haven't done all the work we need to do. The statewide task force gave us 8 things to do about red tide. We've only completed 1. We need to complete all of them.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn the program back over to Delia. Thanks to all of you for the level of civic interest that you have that brought you out to this event tonight. Make sure you vote in November.
Okay, now we have a fun exercise. We have these very slick voting paddles. And we're going to do a speed round, then yes or no answers. So I have 6 questions, just 1-sentence questions that you can give a yes or a no, just so everybody understands your point of view. If it's something that you don't have an opinion or you feel like you can't give a simple yes or no, you can just don't lift your paddle. Okay, are we ready? Do you think the city's water treatment plant should be relocated? Okay, next. Do you support the concept of a commerce park at the Venice Municipal Airport? Commerce park. Okay. All right, next. Should city council races remain nonpartisan? City council races remain nonpartisan. Should the Parks, Arts, and Environmental Advisory Boards be allowed to sunset and a new Citizens Advisory Board be created to cover all those areas? Should the city continue supporting the widening of Laurel Road? Should the city continue to acquire electric vehicles? Okay. All right, was that helpful? Okay. All right, now we'll move on to questions from the audience. Okay, these are in no order, no particular order. And I think the last time we ended with Joan, so we're going to start with Mitzi this time, okay? All right. Mitzi, would you say the media and newspapers are treating all candidates fairly?
I think so. I think they have a task. We've had, 4 different forums. Each have been in different locations. Each have had different questions. Each have had different answers. The press has not they've been there, but they have not written about all of them. And the articles that they've written about, I think that they've been pretty even-handed on it, and it is what it is.
Okay, Dustin. Do you want me to repeat?
No, I got it. I would disagree. I do not feel that Mitzi and I have had a fair shake in the media thus far. I feel like a lot of this clean campaign pledge that has come out has tried to put us in a negative light. And there was the dark money survey that came out that just so happened to have just my picture underneath it. Not all four of us. I don't know why that was. I expressed my concern for it to be taken down. It wasn't. I feel like that was sort of done by design. So, no, I do not feel like we've been treated fairly.
Thank you. Ron?
Well, I applaud both the Herald Tribune and Venice Gondolier for their coverage. I know they don't have an infinite amount of people to do it, but they're doing the best that they can. I think we need to respect them both for their efforts.
And Joe?
I think that Earl and Bob have done a great job. I think they're overwhelmed and have a big job to do. And I think they've overall been very good, thorough, and even-handed. Thank you.
Okay. And this time we'll start, well, we started that time with Mitzi, so we'll start with Dustin this time. Growth is a huge issue, and all candidates say they support controlling growth. Campaign finance reports show that developer money has been contributing to some campaigns. How can voters know who is really for controlling growth?
So when I started this mission of mine, I made it a mission of mine to actually get to know everyone. The developers are going to be here. They're not going to go anywhere. So having a relationship with them was important. You have to be able to work with people, have an open conversation, and talk with them. I don't believe that taking money from a developer is buying a vote. I'm new to this. I hope that is not what is expected. I got heat from, taking money from the Boone Law Firm. The Boone Law Firm has had a working relationship with my husband since we moved here 8 years ago with Village on the Isle. So I think there are a lot of things that are on the campaign finance report that can be misconstrued as developer candidate or whatnot. But in this, I do intend to have a relationship with everyone. Doesn't mean my vote has been bought.
You know, I'd like to say that campaign signs tell a story. If you see a candidate's campaign sign on the lawn, it tells you that you probably have the support of that homeowner. If you see a lot of his signs or her signs in the neighborhood, they probably have the support of that neighborhood. If you see large campaign signs on developers' lots, that tells a different story. And so you can make your own survey of who the developers are supporting and who they're not just by driving around in our city. You can tell by looking at the campaign finance reports. The latest report showed similar amounts of money raised. Some candidates raised it from a lot of individual donations, and some raised it from a small number of donations from large donations from developers.
I agree. The sign placement is critical. If they are on a chain link fence of a developer, that's indicative of something. In terms of the campaign contributions, Ajax Cement has been identified as a big contributor to a few of the people here. I have been receiving donations, much appreciated, from a wide variety of people on the island and in North Venice as well. And finally, and most importantly, look at the voting record. And just this past summer, North Venice Neighborhood Association, who has been trying to get City Council to listen to them for a year and, well, now a year and 3/4, it was voted against. It was a 5-2. Mayor Pachota and Rachel Frank voted in favor of no Publix and no Laurel Road widening, but the rest went against them.
Question, please.
Okay. Growth is a huge issue, and all candidates say they support controlling growth. Campaign finance report shows that developer money has been contributed to some campaigns. How can voters know who is really for controlling growth?
I don't think there's a relationship between that. And I'll tell you why. I have a sign on a chain link fence, and it belongs to a business downtown, and I'm glad that businesses think that I support them. I am endorsed by 48 different HOAs and condo associations. I think that's an enormous statement as to how neighborhoods feel about my votes. So I think, and if my sign is on a business's front door, and one of my opponent's sign is on a lawn, how do I know that lawn doesn't belong to that business owner? You have to, you just assume that these things are the way, but these are erroneous assumptions. I think you have to represent everybody in the city, and I think that's what the city council should do.
Thank you. Okay, Ron, we'll start with you for the next question. One of our voters lives in Bird Bay Village, and he and his wife are very concerned that Venice City keep the promise of our green space. Are you familiar with this issue, and what is your position?
I'm certainly familiar with the issue. With a developer there wanted to take back the golf course that people have enjoyed. And they weren't as upset that they were going to lose the opportunity to play golf as that they would lose the view that they bought of the open space when they bought their condominium. Bird Bay is the oldest planned unit development in the city. It's historic, and that was unconscionable. That community rose up, and that developer backed off. And the same kind of thing is about to happen this week with another request by a developer with another golf course, and the city council needs to stand up and make sure that doesn't happen either. It's unconscionable to take back the open space that people relied on when they made a purchase for their retirement homes.
Thank you. John?
When you buy into a place and you are told this is what you're going to get a golf course, then you should have a golf course. The people who over in North Venice who were told that they were going to have 10.42 acres of a wetland and a nice pond, and then a land grab was made, that is unconscionable. And it's illegal, and it's in court right now because the city council allowed this unconscionable and bizarre situation that is still being resolved. Very expensive, unnecessary. The council did not listen to the voters, and there's going to be a comeuppance, I think, on November 7th.
I'm currently on city council. These are quasi-judicial issues that are coming before me. I'm not allowed to talk about them. I can't, it's the law. I'm sorry, I can't.
I met with the people of Bird Bay. I'm very familiar with what they're going through and what their concerns are. From what I understand, under the new LDRs and the way that things are working, if they have 50% of their space, which is green space, golf course, whether they use it or not, it's protected. There's no more bait and switch allowed in these neighborhoods under the new LDRs. If they have 52% green space, open space, there's a possibility that might be able to be grabbed back by the developer. I could be wrong. That's just the way that I understood it to be. Not saying that I endorse that. Not saying that I think that that's right. I purposely built my home backing up to a preserve. I would be furious if that happened to me. But from what I understand, that's the way it works, and I'm fully up to date or up to par on what's going on there.
The next question, we will start with general. Are we planning on bringing more activities to Venice for kids and young people?
Well, I don't know if we are, but we should be. At a recent city council meeting, two young men came and suggested a skate park. And I mean, that's kind of out there, you know, I'm pretty old. I mean, I'm not going to get on a skateboard ever. But you know, that was an out-of-the-box idea that was presented. I mean, they took it upon themselves to actually come, and they only got to speak for 2 minutes, but that's what they asked for. So, yes, I think citizens should be canvassed as to what sorts of things that their children might want. I don't have any children, so I don't know, but I think the citizens certainly know, and I think we ought to ask them.
We're doing a master parks plan next year, and we're looking at all of our parks, and we're looking at input from the citizens as to what we should put in the parks. Currently, we just added a Gaga Pole activity, and it was an activity that was brought to us by the Chamber of Commerce. We have increased the croquet courts at Wellfield Park at a request of the croquet club, and they have a lot of youth activity. They actually train youth and bring that to us. So I'm looking forward to our master parks plan that we're going to initiate next year for input from the citizens as to what they'd like to see in the park and what activities we can bring forward.
As a mother of young children, there's a lot of activities that go on in our city for our children. Do I think that they have the proper facilities? No. Do I feel like Wellfield Park has a great opportunity to become a regional park? A regional park would mean bringing people in from other parts. It's not just the city, which we're already doing. We just need better facilities. We need to be able to park at Wellfield Park and my kids be able to get out and walk to play soccer without being worried about getting hit by a car. So we have the activities here for the children. Young people are moving here left and right. It's great. We just need to make sure they have a safe facility to do these sports and these activities.
Central Venice Coalition has a wonderful plan to make that area near the Wellfield Park more friendly, with more crosswalks, with a traffic light at the Kaya to let people get out of that park. I endorse that plan. I do love the fact that this city was planned by John Nolan so that no house is further than 3 blocks from a park. It's a wonderful thing. And we have hidden parks all over the city that have been rediscovered and being reopened with markers pointing you to the Nolan greenways that connect all these parks. Do we need more for the youth? Yes. A lot of those parks are passive, and we can certainly figure out some ways to have more things that are welcomed by the youth, in addition to all of the pickleball courts that we've been adding that are not so much a youth activity.
The next round will start with Mitzi. What will you do about the insurance crisis?
Vote for different people. Yeah, vote for different. It's not something that we can handle at the city level. It's not a city. We suffer because of it. We've had to spend more money out of the city budget because of it, unexpectedly, and which has hurt some of our other activities that we had planned on doing. But it is not a city problem that we can fix.
I would have to agree with Mitzi.
What are we going to do about the insurance crisis? Pray.
I agree that I don't think that the city council can actually do anything specifically, but I think education is always a good idea. And I know we have a wonderful planning group. We have expertise at the city that is rather extraordinary. And so perhaps they would provide a pamphlet of advice or suggestions to the homeowners, just as an educational thing. just to help them out. So I think that that would be one aspect that could be considered. Thank you.
Okay, we will start with Dusty. And I'm interpreting this, when will the city get an evacuation center?
I don't know when. I do know it's on everybody's radar. It's on the city council radar. It's on the county commission radar. It is something that is definitely needed, and that is also in the talks with Wellfield Park and what they do. If they do build a regional park, it would, you know, whatever you call it, it would also act as an evacuation place for a hurricane.
You know, I asked this question of city officials, and the answer I get is that's a county responsibility, and I don't like that answer. If it is a county responsibility, then it's the job of the city to work with the county and make sure we get what we need. I asked the same question about homelessness. That's a county responsibility. Wrong answer. Our responsibility to work with the county and make sure we get what we need.
And Joan?
I think we should identify some schools, even churches, on an interim basis that would suffice in that capacity and pay them as necessary. We have a budget surplus, and of course, if you're in a crisis, you're happy to pay to get out of the problem. So I think that some schools might be tapped, or churches, and provide something for our people, because we do have an aging population, and there could be people who cannot make it to the farther distance to the Sarasota facilities.
Now, I know you don't like laws, but it is the law that it is a Sarasota County issue. And there's reasons for that because they can control it county-wide. You have to understand that the city of Venice is 17 square miles. It's a ribbon inside 350 square miles of Sarasota County. You need a relationship with Sarasota County. Sarasota County controls a lot of our issues, as Dusty said. They own a lot of our roads, and they do, by law, are in charge of the hurricane shelters. It is very, very, very important to have a good working relationship with the Sarasota County Commissioners. I can call any of them up. On speed dial, they will answer my phone on the first or second ring, as Andy's knows. And I think that's important. I think that you have to make sure that who you vote for, because we are so dependent on Sarasota County, has a good working relationship with them, and they can count on them to have our back.
Thank you.
Oh, I like that.
Okay, and the next round is, we'll start with Ron. Before I give you the question, I just want to remind you that when I finish these questions, you will have a 2-minute closing statement, because this question really feels like a closing statement lead-in, so just keep that in mind. So Ron, why did you choose to run for this seat?
I read last year, I got 49% of the vote. People ask me that all the time, why would you do this again? And I say, well, what have I got to lose other than my time, my money, and my reputation? And I'm joking when I say that. I'm running again because I believe that people are tired of the dark money that's pouring in, trying to control who's on our city council. They're tired of the unbridled growth. And I saw, since last year, I had the opportunity to be the lawyer, lead negotiator for the downtown group, Venice Unites, as they renegotiated with the city the land development regulations. And having that success and seeing the success in Bird Bay and witnessing the fight out on Laurel Road, I thought that there was a place for me in the city and in the government, helping us avoid lawsuits, helping us settle disputes, helping us listen to our citizens.
Sure. Why did you choose to run for this seat?
I chose to run for the seat after July 11th, when I arrived with a sign. I already believed at that point that Pat Neal was paving a paradise, and I arrived at City Hall where a whole lot of people were standing there with big signs saying, listen to the voters, and they were not listened to. And the land grab was successful by Pat Neal of the 10.42 acres, and the Publix was green-lighted. And I just thought that was unconscionable. That galvanized me to do it. However, I was hopeful that someone else would step up to the plate. I signed up at 3:15 on the Thursday, August 24th. The deadline was Friday at noon. I'm happy to do it, but I had hoped a younger person would do it. But I do believe right now that City Council is controlled by the developers, and I want the voters to have a place at the table, a big place.
This is my 6th year, and I'm running for another 3 years, and some people say that they ask me why I'm doing it. I actually love this job, and I know that sounds very strange, but I love the things that you can do. You have to realize that when you are sworn in at 8:30 in the morning, you put your hand on the Bible, and you raise your right hand, and you put your hand on the Bible, and you swear to God that you will uphold the land, the laws of the state of Florida. So help me God. That doesn't give you the right to sit there and say that you won't do it just because you don't like it. That doesn't give you the right to say that you won't uphold the law just because there's 20 people in purple shirts in front of you. The law is the law. The law might not be something you enjoy. It might not be something that you like. But for me, when I raise my hand and I say, so help me God, that's what I mean.
The simple answer for me is to make a difference. When I moved here, I immediately fell in love with the community and the people and everything that Venice stands for. I believe that concerns that are going on with our country start at the local level. I want to raise my kids here. My kids feel safe here. I feel like my kids are safe here. And I want to do my part to ensure that that continues and that we keep Venice what we all love to be Venice. That's why all of you are here. We're all here because we love where we live, and we're all here because we are concerned with development. We are concerned, with many, many things. So I want to do my part, and I want to be your voice on City Council so we can work together and get things done.
Okay, we will start with Joan for this question. What can City Council do about airport changes?
Well, the airport changes have to do with the tower. So it's to tower or not to tower. There are people on both sides of that. It would appear that you will still have near misses even with the tower. It is a question of whether we're going to launch into the big time and have a giant commercial airport, or if we're going to have an airport that serves the community, hobbyists, local flyers, that sort of thing. It's the same issue we've been discussing all night long, development. So the people will have to decide what they want. And in terms of commercialization, the same thing. There's going to be a push toward commercialization, and the people are going to have to decide, do they want it or do they not, and to what extent, and what sorts of things might they find acceptable there.
The airport is run by the FAA. And the FAA has certain laws and regulations that we are required to follow because we are an FAA airport. We are going to do a master airport plan next year. And what we're asking is the FAA and a consultant is going to come in. We're going to look at our facilities. We're going to see if they match we have a 5, 10, and 50 and 20-year plan. We're going to see if they match that, if they're aligned with the goals that the FAA has for our airport. We'll tweak them if need be, but we are mandated by our agreements with the FAA, the federal agreements according to the monies that we take to expand the runways and to airport hangars and things that we have on there. So the city does have some role to play, but it's only within the confines of the FAA.
I agree with Betsy. My stance on the airport is we all have to realize what an asset the airport is to our community. It serves as a lifeline for our city. If we were ever to have a major hurricane and our bridges were out, how do you think we're going to get supplies? How do you think we're going to have help? The airport is a major asset for us. There are issues with noise. There's issues with the flight school. There are things that being a good neighbor, that's why I harp on that so much. There are things you can sit down and we can talk about the issues that the people who live close to the neighborhood. We can talk to the guys at the airport and come up with a solution on the noise and come up with a solution on things like that. But I personally do not think any commercial, I know it won't happen unless the FAA approves it. Secondly, if the residents around the neighborhood don't want it, it doesn't need to happen.
Ours is a general aviation, non-essential airport. And it's got to remain that way. There's never going to be commercial flights there. People don't understand the potential of that airport or the role of the city council in the future of that airport. Even some council members unaware. The city council has tremendous authority over that airport. I've read every legal document on the transfer of that land, 835 acres, to the city. The FAA is worried about preserving the aviation function of the airport. They won't allow you to do anything that's going to interfere with that. And that makes sense. But they have allowed the city in the past to build a condominium at the north end of the airport property. That's Holiday Apartments, Holiday Condominiums. They've allowed the city to have a municipal mobile home park. They've allowed the city to build the Senior Friendship Center across the Intracoastal. That's still airport land. The Intracoastal came later. They've allowed the city to build a circus arena and host Barnum and Bailey. So they allow a lot if it doesn't interfere with air traffic.
Thank you. This next audience question, we'll start with Mitzi. We can't stop dark pack, but what do you say to negative flyers?
I don't, I can control what I can control. I have raised money, and I've raised money. I've raised at a local church, 26 people gave me $10 each. And it was thrilling. But I raised money and I can spend money according to what my beliefs are. And we have to do reports, and we have to show how we spent the money, and on our flyers we have to say that they're approved by us, and that's what I can control. I do not believe in negative flyers. I have not purchased any negative flyers. I've not sent any out, and I've always run a clean campaign, and it's transparent. I can only control what I can control.
I also have not endorsed any sort of negative attacks on my opponent, nor would I. And again, no, I'm not a politician. I wouldn't know dark pack money if it hit me in the face. I have no idea what that means. The only pack money that I've taken is from the firefighters when they endorsed me. I wouldn't know. I don't support it. I don't encourage it. And certainly if anything negative comes out about him, then if it's the Republican Party or whoever's doing it, I will certainly voice my opinion on that and tell them I didn't endorse it and I don't want to see it.
Someone in the audience was telling me about something they received in the mail today. Obviously, what all I'd ask for candidates is sign a pledge not to do it and condemn it when they see it. I certainly signed a pledge, very simple pledge. Everybody should sign it. I was out challenging the League of Women Voters tonight to be the sponsors of that pledge. It's a pledge not to defame your opponent, to stick to the issues, and not to accept money from people that don't identify themselves. That's what our campaign finance laws require. There's this loophole that allows outside groups to get in. I wish if you receive something attacking somebody, vote for that person.
Well, I'm assuming, since you're here, you do know what a PAC is, but maybe you don't. A PAC is a political action committee, and a dark PAC is just the same thing, except you don't know where the money came from, or it may have come through a convoluted chain of events. Most of the legitimate PACs are from regular organizations, unions, or companies, or whatever, and you know who is funding the money. In my case, there have been 3 negative flyers. 2 were almost humorous. They were rather innocuous. And the third, to certain people, could sway their vote because it was negative things that had to do with the past, nothing to do with the current situation whatsoever. And I saw one on Ron as well. I would have to say that, to my knowledge, there's no flyer, well, certainly nothing that I would have approved of on the other folks. So, thank you.
All right, that concludes our questions. And so each of you now will have 2 minutes for your closing remarks. And we're going to use this very sophisticated sorting rule to decide because we're drawing for the order. So I will select a name of who will go first. Ron will go first. Joan, Mitzi, and Dusty. So, Ron, your closing remarks, please.
Well, thank you. First, thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you to the Venice Gondolier for having this event. I welcome it. Thank you, all of you, for coming. In closing, I think I'll go back to introducing myself. I never got the chance to do that tonight. I am a graduate of the Marine Corps Officer Candidate School. I am a retired prosecuting attorney. I taught at the Police Academy. I served on the Death Penalty Committee for the state. That's what makes some of these attack flyers silly when they talk about being soft on crime. Nothing could be further from the truth. But I came to Venice in 1981 to be editor in charge of all local news for the Sarasota Herald Tribune. And I got to write, research, oversee hundreds of stories, things about why do we have all these sharp teeth, the life of the Wrigley Brothers Circus, and then John Milton. And that's when I fell in love with this city. That's why I want to be on this city council. I want to preserve this paradise. I want to restore trust in our government. And I want to serve all of you. Thank you.
Well, I definitely want to preserve paradise. The one thing that you may not know, in terms of the current city council, there's a playbook being run by the developers against the city council and ultimately against you and us and the whole scene, and that is the threat of suing. And so council, I believe, is caving, and the record would show this, to the developers because of, I will sue you. And in fact, the city is now currently being sued, so you may not have known that, over impact fees. I am your candidate. I will back the voters 100%, and I would invite every voter to contact me, email or phone or whatever, and I will get the job done. If I don't know about an issue, I will research it thoroughly, and I will work on affordable housing, thinking outside the box. That has not been done. The city has not identified a single parcel available for affordable housing of their land. I think that is quite odd, so I want to keep on that search. I've been told that one of our police officers is on food stamps, and I have been told that another cannot run air conditioning for his child, a baby actually, in the summer. So that is unconscionable. Their salary is around $51,000. You need about $80,000 to live here in Venice. So we need to do something, and we've been kicking the can down the road, in my humble opinion, and council has not done anything, including my opponent, and I will do something, and I thank you.
I'm going to follow Ron's lead and introduce myself. My name is Mitzi Fiedler, and I've been on City Council for the last 6 years. My background is in education. I have expertise in running nonprofit businesses that serve people, and I think that's a pretty good match for what we do in City Council. I believe in being involved. doing research, understanding the city before running for city council. I was appointed to the the Environmental Advisory Council. I was appointed to the Code Enforcement Board, and I was selected by the Gulf Coast Community Association to participate in their leadership training program. And that was all before I applied for city council. I guess that's called putting in your time. This is not a job that you learn as you go. And I want you to know 3 things that I've accomplished in the past 6 years. I led the charge to cut taxes this year. I have voted to slow growth, and I've listened to you in your neighborhoods, and I've worked with you to make them safe. I am proud to say that I am endorsed by 46 different HOAs and condo associations, which proves that I do listen to you. Today we face tremendous growth. Venice is no longer the hidden gem it used to be. Working with staff, we have limited growth. A developer can now only develop 1/2 of his land. The other half has to remain in open spaces for 99 years. A developer now cannot build over 3 stories on some areas or 4 stories on the others without council permission, and it takes 4 of us to vote for that. I will not allow Venice to resemble Sarasota or Naples, but in order to do that, it takes a solid working knowledge of our LDRs to keep the developers in check. And of course, you have to know the Bird Harris Act. This year we have succeeded in lowering your taxes, and I'm proud to have led the charge. Over the past 6 years, I have listened to you, I voted for slow growth, and I voted to lower your taxes. And I would appreciate your vote this November.
We've been here going on 8 years. We have 10-year-old triplets. We moved from Alabama. My husband is the CEO of Village on the Isle. And my interest came in this because I do love the city and I do love the community. I grew up in a small town. Venice was not on my radar when I moved here. Got here, did not expect to love it, did not expect to want to get it. Really didn't expect to want to retire here, but now I don't want to go anywhere. So I just want to do my part in keeping Venice safe and keeping Venice what it is so much that we love. And it's hard to not comment on the clean campaign pledge that allegedly is our opponents are doing when I've been, my business that I started from scratch, which I'm very proud of, in Alabama, and I ran, it was very successful, has been attacked on Facebook. The 501(c)(3) profit that I started, Animal Rescue, has been attacked. And I also have not seen my opponent come forward and say, stop this. So, and I do understand in politics, there's a little bit that comes along with it. I have tried very hard to be very ethical, very diplomatic in running a clean campaign. I'm trying to raise 3 children to be decent human beings, and I don't want them to see their mother knock someone else down for her own personal gain. So that's where I stand on the Clean Campaign Pledge. I really would love to never hear of it again. I still do not intend to sign it, but I do still intend to run a clean campaign. So, and I want to be here as a voice for you guys and the community and do my part to serve y'all. Thanks.
Candidates, we really appreciate your participation tonight, and could you please join me in sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement of any candidate by the Sarasota League. We especially like to thank our co-hosts, the Venice Gondolier, and especially Bob, who is our moderator. Also Tracy, who organized the event, and our other volunteers that are here tonight. City of Venice residents, if you were unable to ask your question, we encourage you to visit vote411.org, which is the league site with all the candidate information and with contact information so you can follow up with the candidate that you want to ask a question of. If you'd like to learn more about the work of the League of Women Voters, there are membership materials out on the table, or you can speak to one of the members here tonight.